Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel, the Juice Radio and Talk Show. Listen, you guys, this story is coming out of Alabama. There is a priest in Alabama who has now left the ministry because of this shocking story that's coming out. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you, but some of the things that's happening is there is a woman. Her name is Heather Jones. Heather Jones has come forward. She sent a letter to the Archbishop as to this relationship that she's saying that she had for several years, you guys, with this Alabama priest. Now, his name is Robert Sullivan. Robert Sullivan, he has left the ministry. He did inform the congregation that he was leaving. He did not mention why he was leaving, but he did state that he was taking a leave of absence. And I'm going to share with you guys the story, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up on the platform here. This is the woman, Heather Jones, and the gentleman you see there in the priestly garment is Robert Sullivan. All right. So this story is coming out of Alabama, and I'm reading this from the Guardian. Okay. The Guardian have posted this story, and they state here that Alabama priest leaves clergy after woman alleges private companionship began when she was 17. Now it says Robert Sullivan's self-imposed removal comes after accusation which included sex. Now the story goes on to say in this article, and I'll read it in its entirety, and then I will also share with you the letter that the Catholic Church put out pertaining to this. Now the letter that the Catholic Church put out was written on November 26th of 2025, and it came from the Roman Catholic Diocese of Birmingham in Alabama. They wrote this letter, and this was shortly before Thanksgiving, I believe. Yeah, the day before that, Wednesday before Thanksgiving, they sent this letter out. But let me go in to give you guys a full in-depth knowledge of what went on with this situation. All right. It says a longtime Roman Catholic priest in Alabama has voluntarily left the clergy after a woman alleged to his superiors that he provided her financial support in exchange for private companionship, including sex, beginning when she was 17. Now, I do want to say, let me pause right now, she is now 33. It said Robert Sullivan's self-imposed removal from the priesthood, known as laicization, was announced Wednesday, the day before the U.S. holiday of Thanksgiving, in a public statement from Birmingham, Alabama, Bishop Stephen Raka. The woman who accused Sullivan, Heather Jones, filed her allegations in a formal written statement to the Birmingham Diocese that she then shared exclusively with Guardian in August. Jones, who's now 33, also maintained that Sullivan had paid her hundreds of thousands of backing up her claim with financial and email records, along with a copy of a legal document. Raka's letter said a subsequent church investigation into the significant payments alleged to have been made by then Father Sullivan found no link between the allegations and any diocesan, parish, or school funds. These 4 months since the allegations surfaced have been challenging in the life of our local church, Raka's letter added. I am grateful for the patience and resilience of all who have been affected directly or indirectly in this matter. Members of the priesthood from which Sullivan, who's 61, chose to resign, promised to be abstinent and teach that sex out of wedlock is sinful, classified as minors, and sexual contact with them considered to be abusive. Under policies which U.S. Catholic bishops adopted in the early 2000s amid the worldwide church decades-old clergy scandal. However, there is no indication Sullivan has drawn scrutiny from lay authorities. The legal age of sexual consent in Alabama is 16, And law enforcement investigations have in some cases accused of having improper sexual contact with teens who have reached the legal age of consent. Alabama also is not among the U.S. with states with laws that say a power imbalance makes it impossible for there to be consensual sex between clergy and legal adults who are under the clergy's spiritual guidance. In her statement to Sullivan, growing up in foster care and being removed from her mother's custody due to severe negligence, she wrote that she lacked reliable adult support during her formation years and therefore tried to make ends meet by working as a dancer in an adult establishment outside of Birmingham. Jones said she was 17 when she met Sullivan at the establishment where she managed to land a job despite being under an applicable age limit. Sullivan was a regular patron, but it made a point to tip her during her shift and phone number he slipped her that he wrote. Sullivan then promised to form an ongoing relationship that would include financial support in exchange for private companionship. Jones says Sullivan went on to take her on shopping trips, dining, drinking, and to hotel rooms in at least 6 different Alabama cities, in part to engage in sex beginning when she was 17 and over the course of several years. He was said to have initially presented himself as a medical doctor, though Jones later learned he was a priest. At the time, I was a minor with no experience navigating adult relationships and no understanding of how power and influence could be used to manipulate someone vulnerable, Jones wrote in her complaint. I was hesitant, but ultimately agreed due to his persistence and the desperate state I was in. Jones said she grappled with depression, addiction, and emotional instability during her arrangement with Sullivan. She said she eventually spoke out against Sullivan, defying their agreement for her to stay silent about them because he had continued working closely with families and their children as the otherwise popular pastor of Our Lady's Sorrow Church in Homewood, Alabama. That made her worried others may be vulnerable to the same type of manipulation and exploitation that she endured, as she put it. Additionally, in 2020, Reka had appointed Sullivan to serve as one of the Birmingham's diocese vicars general, meaning he had a high-ranking administrative position. Sullivan told congregants at Our Lady of Sorrow on August 3rd Mass he was taking a personal leave. He did not provide a reason, but Jones by then had filed her complaint against him with the diocese. Reka issued a letter to his diocese congregants informing them of the allegations about Sullivan and the reasons for his leave on August 13th, the same day that The Guardian reported Jones' story. That letter also said the diocese had forwarded Jones' allegations to the Vatican entity, which investigates cases of clergy misconduct. Sullivan later asked Pope Leo to be dispensed from all obligations of the priesthood. Wednesday's statement from Reka said the pontiff granted the request on Monday. Reka's missive said Jones did not immediately comment on Sullivan's laicization. Sullivan was ordained in priest in 1993, according to Our Lady of Sorrow social media post. Now, let me go ahead and bring the letter up on screen so that you all can see the letter that the church wrote pertaining to this. Let me go ahead and bring this down and I will bring this up. Okay, so this is the letter that the church wrote. Let's see if I can make this larger for you guys here. And it says this. Let's go ahead and make this larger. And it says here, this was written on November 26th of 2025. And it says, in light of complaints made against him in July of this year pertaining to Robert J. Sullivan, of his own accord, submitted a petition to Pope Leo requesting that he be dispensed from all the obligations arising from holy orders, as is the standard process for such petitions. The Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith studied the request and presented the petition to the Holy Father, who subsequently granted the dispensation. With communication of Pope Leo's decision on November 24th, 2025, Robert J. Sullivan is no longer a cleric in the Catholic Church and thus will no longer exercise ordained ministry. The canonical investigation of the allegations referred to the dicastery in late summer now concludes with this dispensation. A diocesan financial review initiated at my request due to the significant payments alleged to have been made by then Father Sullivan, who recently completed and found no link between the allegations and any diocesan parish or school funds. Those 4 months since the allegations surfaced have been challenging in the life of our local church. Therefore, I am grateful in the patience and resilience of all who have been affected directly or indirectly by this matter. Please know of my spiritual closeness to each of you and that the Lord will heal your hearts and fortify your trust in Him, who desires to lead us all through the trials of the life to the glories of heaven. And it is signed, sincerely yours in Christ, Most Reverend Stephen J. Rocca, Bishop of Birmingham in Alabama. Now, let me go ahead and bring this back on stage. Now, as I studied this story and got some more information on it, it's sad to say this, but here's the thing. Sometimes it's very hard for these people who want to be these priests and pastors, because we do a lot of stories on pastors as well, to have this life of singleness, to have this life of where they don't have a relationship as far as a spouse or a wife that they have in their life. It's very sad that these things take place where they do these things in secret, but they do happen. So we're going to continue to pray for not only this woman, but also to pray for this priest who's now having to take a leave from his ministry and the church that he was attending. I do want to say this. I do think it is best, bishops, ministers, pastors, priests, that if you cannot uphold the standards of the position that you have in a church, then it is best for you to go ahead and remove yourself than to do these things in secret. You're not only messing up your own lives, but you're also messing up the lives of some of these congregants that are watching and hear about these stories. Now, this priest Sullivan did not tell the members of the church why he stepped down. So unfortunately, many of them will not be aware of this story because many churches and their members don't look at these stories. And it also did not give a great detail in the letter that was written, that was published, so that all could see of what actually happened. But I do want to say this again. I understand people not being able to stay away and be abstinent. I understand. But if you have to do that, then you're going to have to give up your role as this priest because that is in their guidelines. And if you cannot hold up to it, my thought is talk to them and tell them you want to step down because you're doing not only yourself a dishonor, but you're dishonoring the role that they placed you in. And also, you're dishonoring these young people and these people that you're doing these secret things for. This young girl was 17 at the time that she said this started. And this went on. She did not say, how long, but she's 33 now. And just imagine her thought of priest and her thought of church and her thought going forward would probably be that of, I don't believe the church. I don't believe in God. I don't believe any of this because this priest did this to me and it was in secret. So we've got to remember, you guys, that flesh will get in the way of your godly example that you're supposed to be. And it gets in the way of others when it comes to their faith and their faith walk. We're continuing to pray for all of these individuals involved in this situation, but I do want you all to know that these are some of the people that have done wrong. This Mr. Sullivan, we're praying for his healing, his restoration, but we also want to let you guys know that this is not a reflection of all priests or the entire Catholic Church. There are some people that are out there doing it well. This story is pertaining to Mr. Sullivan and also to Miss Jones. I would pray that they all get the help and healing that they need. I am also praying for the restoration of the church, of the Catholic Church, and all those involved and affected by this situation. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.